The title of my talk today is The Holy, Holy Way. Holy, H-O-L-Y, that is the divine way that we are all walking, and the holy way, W-H-O-L-L-Y, meaning entire, whole, integrated. And I believe those are interconnected, that to truly live a holy life is to be whole, to be full and entirely what we really are. There is a passage of Scripture in the Christian Scriptures in John chapter 5. And what it depicts is there were a bunch of people that were gathered around this pool, and this pool was called Bethesda. And at this pool, it says that an angel of the Lord would come down and stir up the waters, trouble the waters, and the first person who would get in after the water had been stirred would be healed. So can you picture this? You've got people lining up around this pool of water, waiting for the water to be stirred. Now, if you have difficulties, for example, walking, or if you're blind, or you're paralyzed, or who knows what, and you're waiting by this pool, when the water begins to get stirred, how are you going to get there first? Can you just see these people trying to find their way to the pool? And so Jesus found this man by the pool of water, and he had his particular health challenge, his illness, for 38 years. So for 38 years, he waited by the pool. And, anytime he tried to get into the pool, someone beat him to it. So Jesus said this question: will you be made whole? In the King James, which I grew up with, King James translation, it says, wilt thou be made whole? Now, newer translations say, do you want to be healed? But that doesn't quite catch the full essence of the question. Jesus wasn't just asking, do you want to be healed? Jesus was asking, will you be made whole? Not only are you willing, but do you accept it? Are you ready? So it wasn't just a question. Jesus was asking for a response in faith. And when I looked up those words, be made whole, like you can go to Bible Gateway. It's a website that I use. And you put in the words, be made whole. And, go to King James translation. It'll bring up tons of scriptures, many of which where Jesus said, your faith has made you whole. Jesus never said, yeah, I can do that. I made you whole. I'm all that. Jesus never said that. Jesus over and over again said, your faith has made you whole. Now, what's interesting about that is that is exactly what we teach here. We teach that your faith, your consciousness is the key, that everything has its beginning in consciousness. Not in what your mama said, not in what your doctor said, not in what the newspaper said. Everything has its beginning in your consciousness. And Jesus taught that as well. Your faith has made you whole. So when Jesus said, will you be made whole? He was wanting to elicit the man's faith. Now, what do you think the man did? I mean, Did he just say, yeah, woohoo? No, he didn't. He immediately went into his story. He said, you know, I don't have anyone to carry me to the water when the water is stirred. And that this man could not walk. I don't have anyone to get me there. So he was attached to how it had to happen. The way he was convinced over the years that if he could just get into the water, he would be healed. So he was attached to how this had to happen. We're taking this absolute abundance class. It's absolutely wonderful. And the homework for this week, one of the questions is, well, and if you haven't filled, okay, I'm going to, some of you haven't filled out your homework yet, but all right, you can get this one for free. Where it says, what is the source of your income? Now, many people, when they are asked, what is the source of your income, they will talk about their job. Oh, I work for such and such a company, or I do this kind of job, or sometimes they'll talk about their investments or inheritance or a lawsuit they won or whatever. But we know that the real answer is God is the source of my income. God is my source and my supply. Those other things, your job or inheritance or investments, those may be channels and methods by which you are appropriating and receiving your good, but the source of all of our good is God. God is that source. So here was this man who was attached to how this had to happen. Have you ever been there? Oh, if I could just make more, if they'd give me a raise at my job, then I could be prosperous. Then I could have the things that I need. Oh, if so-and-so just wasn't so tight with their money, or, oh, if the government would just give me this, or, oh, if just that. And we forget that our true source is God. I'm laughing because I'm funny. You know, I've had this insurance for a year, and I went to eye doctor, I went to the dentist, but I didn't go to any physician, you know, didn't have a primary care physician. I was just going through the whole shelter-in-place thing and thinking, I don't know, video? Really? Visit with your doctor over video? Here, you want me to show you the spot on the video? What do you do? So, we're coming up to enrollment time again, some of us, you know, and so all of a sudden they're reaching out to me. Like, oh, we don't want him to get away. And so I've had all these appointments, you know, and it's great. It's great. So I'm getting caught up on all these medical things that have been put off for years. And as I'm going to the doctor, as I'm seeing doctors, when I go in, I feel gratitude, and inwardly I give thanks. I give thanks for this doctor. I give thanks for their education. I give thanks for their parents or whoever helped support them and mentor them. I give thanks knowing that they are going to provide for me the best and most caring, competent care. I affirm that when I go to the doctor. And I go on to say, because I know that my doctor is not the source of my health and well-being. I know that God is my source. God is my supply. This is but one channel to it. Do you get the difference? So we're not relying on, oh, it's their fault, or no, we are focused on God. And this guy by the pool, he was so into his story, and don't we get attached to our stories? Our stories are great. I love stories. You can tell, right? I'm a storyteller. I love stories. And those things have helped to make what our lives are, but sometimes we get attached to these stories of why something can't work. I remember talking with a client, a patient, when I was working in psychiatry. They were very, very depressed. And you have to be real careful with this. You only do this with people who don't have a psychotic process going. And I won't go through all of that. But in this particular person's case, I saw, this is a good opportunity to paradox with them. Let me explain what that means. So they're really depressed and talking about how there's nothing to live for. There's no reason to keep living. I knew they had a couple of children. I said, you're right. Those children don't need you. Now, you don't do this with everybody. You understand? I was under clinical supervision to do this kind of work, all right? But, you're right. Those children don't need you. You don't need them. They'll be just fine without you. They paused, like they were thinking, what did that guy just say to me? And they said, well, they are important to me, and they mean so much to my life, but, I just don't see a reason to go on living. I'm like, you're right. I mean, what's the point of living? Your kids can't give you that. They're not that important. Just let them go. Well, wait a minute, Chaplain Tim. And they started explaining to me why it was important that they be there for their children. And I said, yeah, but that's not enough, is it? That's not enough to keep living. I mean, what really is the point of this? I mean, there's nothing about life to really enjoy and live for, is there? Well, Chaplain Tim, but there's other things. And pretty soon, this person was fighting for their life. They were trying to convince me how important their life was, and how important their family was, and how important the circumstances of their life for, and that it was worth living for, doggone it. I'm like, okay, if you say so. That's paradoxing. Sometimes we get so attached to our particular perspective, our particular story, and it gets in our way, just like that man at the pool. When Jesus found out that the man was willing to be made whole, he said, pick up your bed and walk. Boom. The man did it. His faith clicked in, engaged. Being made whole. Being whole is health. It's having the things that you need. It's about balance in life. All of those things that help to make us who we are. To be really integrated. To be whole. To bring all of that together. Howard Thurman, minister, theologian, philosopher, writer, civil rights activist. Howard Thurman made this comment: don't ask what it is that the world needs. Now, this is a minister and civil rights activist. Don't ask what the world needs. Instead, ask what it is that makes you come alive. Because what the world needs are people who have come alive. Isn't that great? Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs are people that have come alive. What is it? What is it that makes you come alive? What is the dream that's wanting to come forth as you? If anything was possible, and it is, if anything were possible, what is it that you would do? What is it that you would do with your life? What book would be written? What adventure would be taken? What relationship would be mended and made whole? What relationship would get started? What would it be? Will you be made whole? Thank you, Monica. Let me try that again. Will you be made whole? Yes. Into that yes, Spirit speaks and says, it doesn't depend on certain circumstances. You don't have to have this or that necessarily. Your good is always available. God is our source. God is our supply. Everything we need is always available right here and right now. Maybe you don't like your job. Maybe it just feels like a grind. But if you can fully live into that moment, and as Reverend Ken Daigle from Unity San Francisco says, that don't work for your job. Work for basically what it is that makes you come alive. And if you are working from that standpoint, you know, I think back when I was a janitor at a place, I just put myself totally into it. I visualized all the people that I was servicing by cleaning up their areas. They didn't know me. They didn't know my name. They didn't care. But I held every desk in prayer. I held every toilet in prayer. I held every piece of carpet in prayer, knowing that people are walking across this and they may be having difficult times in their lives, but knowing that somehow they are blessed by my prayer and by my making this place as clean as possible. Anything we do can be fully done for God, can be fully done for joy. Yesterday was the birthday of a friend of mine who left this planet about 4.5 years ago or so. C.J. Felton. C.J. was a prayer practitioner with Agape in California. And she lived in Wichita, Kansas when I got to know her. I was active as a congregant at Unity of Wichita. And for a number of years, like the man by the pool of Bethesda, for a number of years I had a story. Here was my story. My story was, I will never, ever pastor a church again. That was my story. I don't need it. I've been there, done that. You know, another tradition that I had been in, very traumatic. It's like, who needs this? You know, so eventually I began to amend that story a little bit. It would have to be something so different, so out of the box, a very different kind of church for me to ever become a pastor again. I can't even see how that could possibly happen. Now, there were a couple of people. One was my wife, when we went to visit Unity of Wichita, and she looked at me and she said, "You will be the minister of this church." I said, "What?" And then there was my rabbi, teacher, mentor, Rabbi Nisim Warnick, who, after he heard me speak at a large Holocaust gathering, said, "Why are you hiding? What happened? Why are you hiding? You have something to share with the world, and you're keeping it to yourself. What are you doing?" Okay, so there were those two people. But then CJ, okay, she was part of this church at Unity of Wichita, and they had a fundraiser or something. You know how at fundraisers sometimes they have a special gift for you? If you will sign up now, if you will pledge now, we have this gift, we have that gift, and one of the gifts was a session with C.J. Felton, who was an intuitive and prayer practitioner. I think it was valued at $50 or something. Anyway, I got that. I got that prize. It says a free session with C.J. And so I'm like, I was a little nervous, like, what's this going to be like? And so I went to the place where she practiced, and we went very deep. I thought it'd be about an hour session, and about 2 hours later, my life was changed. Thought about it as I saw it was her birthday yesterday, and people were sending Facebook messages to her, "Have a great birthday," I think a number of people didn't know she had passed on, and I thought, no, that's appropriate. She's still very much alive, even though she's not in this physical plane. But she worked with me, and she's just intuiting this as she's praying with me. And she's helping to pull out of me what this calling is, and what it's drawing me to, and what it is that I need to be doing. It was in there, but I had buried it. Kind of like Jesus had been buried in the tomb, and people thought, oh, that's the end of it. No more. But in this session with CJ, it's like the rock was being rolled away, and this dream, this vision, this presence of God was rising up. And it was exciting and it was scary. It's exciting because it's like, wow, tapping into that power and presence of God. It was scary because, oh crap, what does this mean for my life? How are things about to change? And sure enough, they really started shifting after that. After I really got clear about what was coming up for me, and then beginning to take baby steps to pursue that, the doors just started opening and opening, which is how I became then the minister at Unity of Wichita, which Ogalucia said I would. What is it for you? What is it? Is it finances? Is it a particular dream of yours? Is it relationship? What is it for you that Spirit is bringing up for you? Will you be made whole? Let's try that again. Will you be made whole?
Yes.
Your faith has made you whole. The Spirit of God living in you is bringing that forth, and nothing is impossible for you. Nothing is impossible for you. Please repeat after me. Where I am, God is. All of God. And in this presence of God, I bring forth my dreams. Nothing can hold me back. Nothing is impossible for me. I am the presence of God in action. And so it is. Amen. Thank you.